Today is 19th December. Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform keeps operating. My name is Vasyl Samachwalov, and we start our next briefing. Our guest today is Halyna Lugova, the military governor of the city of Kherson. Good afternoon, Ms. Halyna. Everybody have a peaceful day. Thanks a lot. It's a very important wish. Let's proceed to our peaceful day. Kherson region suffers constant bombardment. What's the situation in the city as of now? Yes, you're right. Kherson endures the bombardment. We are being ironed by the bombardments. There is a number of villages and infrastructure objects around Kherson region. The missiles hit the educational institutions recently, a police department, and the regular civilians suffer the bombardments, both in residential areas, in private buildings and apartment blocks. The district of Ostriv suffers a lot, along with Antonivka, Sadova, in remote Torostinsk districts, Stepanivka, Toroshany. Resilience stations were hit by enemy shells. Those resilience points were the only places people could recharge their gadgets, get heated. The situation is quite tense. The infrastructure installations are being hit in a way that the enemy bombards the thermal power stations so that the whole districts stay without heat supplies. So last week, the emergency committee unanimously voted for the resolution for the district of Karabel to drain the water because we don't have a capability to pump the water from the substation currently. We can only do it from Dnipro River. However, our employees cannot make a single step there because the district is being bombarded by MLRS, mortars, and cannon artillery. That's why our personnel cannot operate there. And only as soon as the situation becomes more quiet, we will be capable of repairing the substation and pump the water. So that was the only right resolution we could take today, because the freezing temperatures are coming, and obviously there are people left in that area, 700 to 800. It's a very densely populated area. Before the war, it accounted for almost 20,000 residents. Now we deployed resilience stations there. Also, the citizens are offered evacuation options using the buses supported by Kherson Transportation Department. There's also a train operating, leaving every day at 15:24, who brings people to remote areas of Ukraine, to Khmelnytsk region directly, where people are guaranteed accommodation and 5 times ration. People can evacuate from the central bus station. During evacuation, everybody is supplied with a small rations. We are currently talking with UNICEF. The children were provided with warm clothing, winter clothing. Kherson holds on. It's difficult, but we hold on. Today, the enemy started using S-300, so the situation is pretty tense. Ms. Halyna, you mentioned one district, but generally across Kherson, what about with power supply, water supply, heating supply? How many consumers are covered? As of today, I have to know that 80% of the city population are supplied with water supply. It's almost everybody save for district of Ostriv and Antonivka, who suffer constant bombardments, but with the help of the generators we try to pump water from the artesian wells, and the situation still remains quite tense because the district of Antonivka suffers constant bombardment. The snipers work there along with even tanks. So it's 20% of the population who are without water supply. As to the heat supply, we cover 75% of the population. Again, there are some hits by the enemy, even in the center of the city, in the Shuminsky district. A number of buildings remain without heat supply. In some districts where enemy hit infrastructure installations, there is no heat supply as well. As soon as our specialists repaired the infrastructure facilities, the enemy keeps hitting it because they studied the critical infrastructure within the period of population very well, and they know exactly where to target. And as to the electric power supply, around 90% of the residents have lights at home, but there are cases when, for example, in the morning, today in the morning, the enemy hit a distribution station, a distribution substation, and the enemy targeted, and then there was a repairing team on a mission to repair that substation. They did it, and the enemy hit it again. But in some places, like I mentioned, Antonivka, we are still unable to resume power supply, and there are thousands of people without electric power supply because the repair teams just cannot get there due to the constant mortar fire. I found myself under mortar fire twice on my way to deliver the humanitarian aid, because as soon as the enemy spots any movement in that area, they start targeting the area immediately. So in Antonivka, Kindivka, there is no light in that area. In part in Starostinsky County, in Sadovo district, the enemy is very close, and they don't give us opportunity, they don't give us specialist opportunity to repair the facilities. We have questions in the studio. Olga Panasenko, Ukrinform, good afternoon. Ms. Halyna, could you please tell us how is the operation organized, how is the work organized with the category of citizens with limited mobility? Can they count on evacuation? Do they have humanitarian aid delivered to that? Can they leave those dangerous areas like Antonivka or Ostriv? Well, I have to know that with the support of the Red Cross, we evacuate the people with limited mobility. But I have to mention too that we have 3 district councils, Korabelna, Suvorivska, and Dniprovska, which organized the territorial centers for support of the residents with limited mobility. In their schedules, they have 48 to 50 employees allocated to support such residents. However, the people keep living to ensure their safety and security, and the safety and security of their families. However, at these centers, 18, 20, and 24 people respectively remain. I mean, the employees to support such people with limited mobility, and those centers did not cease their operation. Even during the period of occupation, they continued to support such category of residents with all the necessary humanitarian aid, their basic needs. They provided cleaning services for them, cooking, and providing all the necessary material. And those people who leave, now those employees have additional workload on their shoulders, and we appeal to all our employees, teachers, and employees in the area of culture. We just don't have working hands. Now we draw up the list of those who are ready to go to support such people with limited mobility. However, unfortunately, the number of such people who want to leave the city of Kherson, this number is law. We have an agreement of how to transport such people, and I have to also note that I submitted an appeal to the Lviv City Administration, and they presented us with the buses for the people to transport the persons with limited mobility, which will be of great use to us. However, at the moment, there is no large number of such people with special needs who would like to relocate to any other area. Among them, there is a large number of the elderly, and in Kherson, there is a large number of people who do not want to leave their dwellings. They say, come what may, but we're not leaving our native city. So, unfortunately, the situation with such people is as follows. They just don't want to leave their city, so we continue to support them, we continue to help them. We have lists of all such residents, and they are the first to receive all kinds of aid and support. So can we say, how did the demographic structure of Kherson change since the moment of the occupation? The people come back or the people leave mostly? What's the situation in this regard? As of 24th of February, 333,000 people lived in Kherson regional community. As of the moment of the occupation, 11th of November, when the armed forces of Ukraine entered Kherson, on 11th, 12th of November, and then 2 weeks after that, there was morale upheaval in patriotic Kherson. Everybody was feeling some euphoria, and the number of people started growing. There was more movement of municipal transport, so we felt the city of Kherson as if it spread its wings. People supported each other with the tears in their eyes. They had no gas supply, no water, no power, no sewage, but the people kept coming back. And as soon as the first bombardment started, now, like 11th, 12th, and 13th of November, we've seen around 80, maybe 85,000 residents, maybe up to 100,000 within those limits. But with the advent of the first bombardments, the people started leaving. The people started leaving from the city of Kherson, and the more the bombardments, the more is the tendency to leave. I have to note that at this moment, approximately from 50 to 120 residents leave Kherson on a daily basis. All right, we understand. So the last question is the children. Do we have an understanding of the number of the children who remain in the city? Or how are they engaged in the education process? We have our education process organized on a remote basis. We made it, no matter the obstacles put for us by the enemy. The Department of the Digital Technologies set the task to have us downloaded the database. The occupiers stole it from us, but we were able to download it again, and I submitted a letter to Mr. Klitschko to have the mayor of Kiev to have the premises allocated for us. We hired new accountants and the other relevant specialists, so we set up the education process on a remote basis. There are teachers who remain in Kherson. They are on standby, and there are teachers who work remotely, risking their lives. But no single participant of the education process did not is not left without education services. We have individual training, individual education, as contemplated by the law of Ukraine in force. The education services are being provided, and the employees of the education area keep receiving their salaries. Thank you very much for this information. Joining us was Halyna Lugova, the military governor of the city of Kherson, just told us about the situation in Kherson. Our next briefing is at 15:30. We will be talking to Alexander Staruk, the military governor of Zaporizhia region. See you shortly.